Hello again, I'm John. I'm a psychotherapist here to answer your questions. We asked the internet for some questions about mental and emotional health and well-being. And this week's question, why don't I ever get any notice of these questions, people, please? I'll have a word. This week's question, a simple one, but very interesting. Can I ever overcome trauma completely? The answer is yes, and these days we understand an awful lot about trauma and what it is. Think of it this way. Really simple idea that there's a bit of your brain that's in charge of your fight or flight or freeze response. And that fight or flight or freeze response is keeping you alive. And it's been doing so for a long time. I'm sure there have been times when you've just jumped out the way of something and thought, wow, I was quick. And it was your fight or flight or freeze response that kicked into action and made you do something without initial thought. Now, when somebody's traumatized, there is an event that occurs, and that might be a huge event, like a bomb going off, like watching something terrible happening, like being attacked and invaded personally in some way. But it might be what's called complex trauma, a lot of events over a period of time, layer upon layer of trauma. It might be the word that most people might think trauma is too much of a strong term, but nonetheless it's something that informs your thoughts and feelings and actions on a daily basis, but it's being informed by that very primitive bit of your brain. Imagine that you were somewhere and a bomb went off and people were maimed and injured, and it's a terrible thing. And then for the rest of time, what happens is that there's a bang that happens. And where I live in Guernsey in the Channel Islands, we have the noonday gun, and I often think of people who may be traumatized by that gun going off to tell everybody that it's 12 noon. The issue is that information has been stored in the wrong bit of your brain, if you like. We need to move it from that primitive bit of your brain into your thinking brain, so that when there's a loud bang, you notice it and think, oh, hang on a moment. Oh yeah, that was the noonday gun, and it doesn't set your fight or flight response firing. So there's I won't go into the ways right now of diagnosing post-traumatic stress symptoms, but I do assure you that there are ways over it which are very, very effective. And there's lots of arguments about which is the most effective way. I've personally found what's called the rewind technique to be the most effective in my hands. But it's not just that it's the most effective, it's the least invasive, and it comes without any risk. I've never known the rewind technique make something worse. And what it needs to do is separate out the experience from the emotions that got hooked into that experience, that memory, that event, or that series of events. There they are, sat there in a little barrel, and all these emotions have got hooked in to that barrel. And what we need to do is separate out the emotions, so that when somebody says a word or reminds you of an event, instead of having that visceral reaction, what you do is think, yeah, had something happen to me, wasn't very nice, but it doesn't set your heart thundering, and it doesn't feature in your dreams, and it doesn't prevent you from leading a normal life. So the answer is yes. It's never 100% guaranteed. Nothing ever is about this business about changing your mind, but I do promise you that there is an extremely good chance that if you find the right person and it's somebody who's trained in that rewind technique. It used to be called visual kinesthetic dissociation, but the rewind technique adds another layer of dissociation. Here's a warning. There are very, very well-meaning people, and they go on critical incident first aid courses and things like that, and they think that by getting you talking about what happens to you, that it's going to help you in some way. Please back out of the room very quickly. Keep reliving the trauma may, if you are really lucky, get you bored with the trauma. But I doubt it, and the trouble is that every time you relive it, you're making it worse. This rewind technique does it without you even having to tell the psychotherapist what the issue is. So if you've been personally attacked in some terrible way, you don't have to come and see me and tell me what it is. I can help you to overcome it simply by doing some things in a certain way which disassociate you from it. So, long answer to a short question: yes, be optimistic. You can overcome trauma and any symptoms of post-traumatic stress. Good. Thanks very much for the question, and thanks for listening. Please like, share, subscribe, hit that little bell for a notification of when our next video is online. And one last really important thing: take care of each other and take care of yourself.